Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Real Talk with Patrick. My name is Patrick, and I have a lovely guest with me. Today, I have my mother, Patricia, or Pat. Hi, Mom. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So, Mom, what I like to usually do at the beginning of my podcast is I like to have my guest introduce themselves and kind of give, it should be easy for you, an explanation of how we met and how long we've known each other. So, why don't you go ahead and hit this easy one out?
Okay, well, seeing as I'm your mother, I met you when you were born, which was April 14th, 1992, about 11:20 in the morning. But we've probably known each other since July 1991 when you were conceived inside of me.
Gross. All right then. Thanks for that intimate detail. Oh, okay. Um, so today, Mom, we talked about, what kind of subjects did we want to talk about? And one of the things we thought that we really love to do, you and I, our family just really loves to do this. It's traveling. So I thought, why not talk about kind of the trips we went on? Not as like a humble brag or anything, but just as just a reminiscing moment, especially during these lovely pandemic times that we're in right now, and just kind of talk about the trips we've been on. So, is that something you're interested in talking about?
Sure, sounds good.
Great. So, why don't you take it away? Why don't you explain to the audience what is it about traveling that you love and what kind of a destination, like what is it that you really like about traveling? Is it the monuments? Is it history or is it relaxation? So take it away.
All right. So for me, basically, I love to travel just to get away from the hustle and bustle, not have any home, we'll say, responsibilities. And so for me, my destinations are usually to relax. I don't mind a bit of sightseeing, but I don't want it to be like an area where I'd be out every day looking at new monuments or anything like Greece or something like that, because then I'd feel like I'd have to be out every day checking out these sites. So I like it mostly relaxation, but again, like I said, I don't mind doing a bit of sightseeing while I'm there.
Okay. Now, for me, I kind of agree with you to a certain extent. Now, I really like sightseeing. So I've been on trips that are both, like where it's sightseeing or it's relaxation or a mixture of both. But sometimes it's the sightseeing trips are always fun and exciting, but you kind of get tired at the end of it all. And then you kind of feel like you need a second vacation just to compensate for that vacation. So if you're looking for like relaxation, I'm all for that too, for sure. But I thought what we could talk about is some of the trips we've been on, the highs and lows of them, and maybe discuss which one of the trips we've been on has been our favorite. So why don't you start?
Okay, well, I believe the first trip we probably took as a family when you were young was to Florida. So we would go with my sister and her husband and her two children, and we would usually rent a house down in a community in Florida. So we would end up driving down, which was always fun because we kind of made it like a bit of a road trip. So we would take our time and stay at a hotel one night after we drove maybe about 8 hours, and then take off again the next day and do a little more hours and make like a lunch picnic so we could stop on the way and have a picnic, usually at south of the border or something. And then we'd end up going to the house that we had rented. And it always had to have, of course, an in-ground pool.
Now, for a couple of things, it was actually 16 hours on the road, not 8 hours. Mom, my goodness, 8 hours? Pff,
The first day.
oh, right, we do two.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
My apologies. Also, for our non American friends here who might not know what south of the border is, what south of the border is it's in South Carolina, actually, and it's the division between North and South Carolina along the interstate. It's just basically a little area with souvenir shops and restaurants and whatever. It's kind of like a gimmicky kind of place. So that's south of the border, just for those that may not know that. But yeah, I remember Florida. Phew.
Well, I know while we were there, we would always go to a theme park, and always, as well as a theme park, we would do a water park all the time. So we would do a water park, a theme park, and then a beach. And then, other than that, we'd like to spend time at the house using the pool.
Right. Now, you're not a theme park lady. Not that you don't like to go. Well, you kind of don't like to go, but that's because you don't really do any of the rides. So to you, it's kind of a waste to go because you're usually the one just stuck with all the bags and glasses and everything. You just sit because you get sick going on rides, right?
Yeah, so I don't do a lot of rides that have a lot of motion. I don't mind a lot of the, we'll say, water rides where it's just a tube. But yeah, anything that has a lot of motion, it just upsets my stomach. So I don't mind going because I like to see the park. I like to, sometimes they have little shows happening as well. So I don't mind going and holding, we'll say, the sunglasses, the wallets, the purses, the bags. But I remember, yeah, in the beginning it was a little stressful because you would go on rides with your father, and to me they were terrifying rides. So I was always worried something would happen to you.
Right. Now, out of the theme parks we've been to, because we've been to quite a few, we've been to a lot of the Disney ones and the Universal ones and Busch Gardens and SeaWorld and all of them, even like the one in Toronto, Ontario. Now, out of all the theme parks we've been to, which one would you say is your favorite if you had to go not being a theme park person?
My favorite would be, it'll probably shock a lot of people, but it would be Wonderland in Toronto. Only because I know it pretty well. There's a lot of water rides there that I like to do, and there's some good shows that I don't mind watching.
Okay. Now, I was very young at the time, but I do always get to hear this wonderful story whenever we get together with family of this one time my cousin, your nephew, happened to get you on a roller coaster. And why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, I forget what the roller coaster was called. Do you remember?
I think it was called like the Montu or
Something like
something like that
that.
at Busch Gardens.
Yeah, it was the one that was, I think, associated with King Tut or something. Anyhow, so we hadn't, I don't believe, had Patrick yet. It was just myself and Patrick's dad, Wayne, and my sister, her husband, and her two kids. And so we ended up going to Wonderland with them. Oh, sorry, it was Busch Gardens, sorry. No, so if we went to Busch Gardens, Patrick was born. Yes. Okay. So, yeah. So what had happened was my nephew had gone on the ride with my husband and loved it, very excited, pumped. So when he got off the ride, he knew I was someone that, would like to play and have a lot of fun. So he convinced me to go on the ride because he was, kind of telling me, "Oh, Pat, you have to come. No, really, it's fun. You won't get sick. It's not that bad." And so anyhow, he talked me into it. So I thought, okay, I'll give it a shot. So we went on the ride, and in the beginning, I was screaming a lot because it was terrifying. But then my voice was getting sore, and it was kind of making me feel more sick to my stomach. So I just kind of got really, really, really quiet. And so my nephew was sitting between myself and my husband, and he kind of looked over at me and he was trying to talk to me. And I just held up my finger saying, shaking it, saying, "No, no, don't talk to me. Don't talk to me." So then when we got off the ride, my stomach was topsy turvy, and I right away went to the nearest washroom. But unfortunately, I wasn't sick, which probably would have helped me for the rest of the day. But because I wasn't able to be sick, my stomach was in circles all day. And so I didn't enjoy the rest of my day because I felt nauseous all day. But yeah, I did it for the nephew.
Well, I guess that's nice in a way, even though you tortured yourself and punished yourself for the rest of the day. Now, moving on from Florida, we have been to other places as well. Why don't we talk about the other American states or places we've been to? So I know for a fact that we've gone to New York City quite a few times.
Yeah, we've gone mostly with friends, or have we been with family? I don't believe we've been with family to New York.
I think
No.
only with
Oh,
my grandma
yeah,
mare.
my mother, your grandmother. Yeah,
Yeah.
we went there once, mostly with friends. And I believe the first time we went was after the Twin Towers collapsed.
Yeah, it was the year after 9/11.
Yeah. So we were able to go see the ruins, unfortunately, and all the memorials. And we also went to visit all the other popular locations. And I remember we've been quite often, but one time when we went, it was just before Christmas. And so we had packed our winter clothes, of course, because they do get winter and snow. But for this particular year, I guess they were having some kind of extraordinary weather. So it was probably the week before Christmas, and we went down and we were able to wear shorts and t shirts in Central Park because there wasn't even one speck of snow. And then the day we were leaving, the following day, New York got hit with snow. So that was kind of weird. So we have gone back since in the winter, and have had snow on the ground. But it was nice seeing all the shops decorated and doing the horse and buggy ride and, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. We've also been to New Hampshire, uh, and part of that trip also included visiting Boston and Salem, where the witch trials took place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in Salem, we did visit some of the cemeteries. We did watch a reenactment of a witch trial. We did also in Boston go to we'll say the little bar that,
Cheers.
yeah, Cheers. And so that was quite a fun trip
We,
as
we
well.
saw the stadium
Yeah,
as well, Fenway.
that's right. And my husband got to put on one of the
Football rings.
is it
Super Bowl?
Yeah, one of the Super Bowl rings, because the guy that was at the door actually happened to have one. So he let my husband put it on and we took a picture of it. So that was a great treat for him as well.
Yeah, and New Hampshire, we went there to kind of just see like the nice fall foliage and check out like the shoots and the falls.
Yeah, we went up one of those chutes, and then we went I think near Mount Washington.
Yeah.
And so that was a really, really nice trip.
Now, most of those have been part of the East Coast since, where we live in the nation's capital in Ottawa, we tend to stick to the East Coast. But we've also visited in the United States. We've gone west and we've been to Las Vegas, Nevada, and we've been to Napa Valley and San Francisco, California. So, what can you talk about those trips that we've been on?
So we own a timeshare, which we own is in Barrie, but it allows us also to use our points, because it's a point system, anywhere else in the world for any other timeshare. So we were able to book some time at a timeshare in Napa Valley. Very beautiful area. It was part of a winery. And for our flight down, we decided to take our flight from I believe it was Toronto we landed in Las Vegas first. Yeah. So we stayed at a timeshare in Las Vegas, went and visited the Strip, went into some casinos. That was kind of fun. We left the following night for our flight and ended up going to Napa Valley. So while we were in the Napa Valley, we did a lot of the wineries. We did the one winery. It's like a castle, and that's where part of Bedtime Stories was filmed with Adam Sandler. And then we also ended up going into San Francisco and visiting the area there. We did the Alcatraz tour. We did a bus tour. We got to see where the famous house for Mrs. Doubtfire. So that was a very nice trip as well. And actually, we've done that trip twice, because we went down, I believe it was myself and my husband first, and then we went down again with Patrick and my mother, and then my sister, her boyfriend, and her son.
Yeah, you're right. Just a slight correction. I did go with you guys the first time.
Oh, you did?
I did.
Oh, okay.
I was like, excuse me, I've been there twice.
So you were there twice.
Yes, but Vegas we went to Vegas. We stopped over in Vegas before we went to Napa Valley the second time we went. And yeah, Vegas was fun. We weren't big gamblers, not really, especially at that time. But
The sights were
the
nice.
sights were really nice.
Yeah, they had that one casino there that almost had like the Venice.
Yeah, the Venetian with the gondolas,
Yeah,
and then there was obviously the Bellagio,
the light show and the water show, and
and then
yeah,
we went to Paris, Vegas, and went up the Eiffel Tower there. That they had to look at the Bellagio fountains and stuff like that. So yeah,
we
it was
we
nice.
did a lot of walking on that trip.
Yes, there's a lot of walking down that strip there. So that's pretty much for all the American destinations we've been to. Um, Now, from the American destinations, which one out of the ones we've been to would you say are your top two?
Let me see. Well, always Florida because Florida we usually try to go to every year. And then my other one, of course, would be yes, definitely Napa Valley.
Napa Valley, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I'd say my top two are. See, I'm always torn because I really like Florida for Florida, like the heat and stuff, but I do really enjoy New York City for the hustle and bustle. But I also really love Napa Valley. So you know what? I'm going to go with New York City. And I'm going to go with Napa Valley, California, because they're both very different. They're on the different spectrums, we'll say. For example, New York is very hustle, bustle, busy, crazy, sights, this and that, not really relaxation. But then you've got Napa Valley, which is more laid back, wineries, and like spas and things like that. So it's a bit of both. Now, enough talking about America here, people. Let's talk about our own Canadian country. And we've been to a few different places as well in Canada. Now, do you want to list some of the places we've been?
Sure. So as I had mentioned, we do own a timeshare in Barrie. So we've gone up there quite often. We used to go a week in the summer and a week in the winter because where we are is our timeshare is located as the snow belt. So it's a beautiful place to go skiing and take some horse-drawn carriage rides as well. In the summer, we're not that far from Wasaga Beach, which I love to go to as well. So we usually try to go there once or twice a year. And then also we've been to Niagara Falls. Yeah, so we've been to Niagara Falls. We've stayed near the falls, visited the falls, did the boat ride, on the falls, went and visited some museums, Ripley's Believe It or Not. So we've done that as well. On the Canadian side, of course. And again, yes, we often do go to Toronto, and it used to be to go to Wonderland. But as we had mentioned, I'm not big on the rides anymore. And since Patrick's gotten a little older, I think he's picked up a bit of my stomach because he can't really do the rides as much as he used to. But it may be because, yeah, you want to explain?
Yeah, I'll explain. So it's probably because at most theme parks now they have this thing called a fast pass where you can just kind of skip the lines if you pay extra money and you can get on the rides a lot quicker and faster. So one time we bought the fast pass at Wonderland in Toronto, and there's this one roller coaster there called the Behemoth. And because we had the fast pass, it was literally like you got up, you got in line, you were literally seated, did the ride, off, seated, did the ride, off. And we did that, I think, like 4 times in a row. And I think after like the third time, I was like, no, my stomach couldn't handle it. So I blame it a bit on that because I think like at a theme park, if you're not paying the express and whatever, you have time to like your stomach and your body to like settle down because you have to wait a while in between rides. But it also didn't help that right after the Behemoth, we did do this other ride. Used to be called Top Gun when it was owned by Paramount, the theme park, but now it's called Flight Deck, I believe. And it's an older ride, so it's a little more shaky and rickety. So doing that right after constantly being in motion is a little much. But I mean, I'm always up to try it again, but it'll probably take some time. But there's also another place we've been to. Obviously, we've been to Montreal
Oh,
and
yes.
like old Montreal,
Yes.
things like that. We've been to Gatineau and
Yes.
obviously our own city and like the little towns like Lucan, Ontario.
Yes.
And I've been to Winnipeg. And I know Dad's been out west and
Yeah.
stuff, but we've also gone to the Maritimes. We
Yes.
went to New Brunswick, right? Why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, so that again, we were driving down, and it was again my sister, her husband, her two children, and us as well. And so we had got like a package deal at the hotel because the hotel also had a theme park kind of integrated with it. And so for I believe the weekend, we had purchased our stay and our theme park packages. And so we drove down. We went to visit Hopewell Rocks. And yeah, we went to visit Magnetic Hill. And yeah, we were able to do the theme park at the hotel. And yeah, that was a good trip as well. Very nice.
Yeah, that was a good trip. And now you guys might be like, okay, well, they're just bragging about all these trips and good for them, but they're just sticking to like North America. We got Canada here and we've only got the United States of America. But don't worry, people. We're well traveled people and we've left North America and we've traveled to other destinations. Right, Mom? What was one of the trips we did when I was a lot younger?
I believe the first one when you were younger, I think you were probably about 7 or 8, or no, you know what, maybe about 12. Anyhow, we ended up going to, we did an all inclusive to Venezuela.
Pre capital destruction and turmoil that makes it unsafe to be there.
Yeah, so we ended up booking a package there. It was a little, a little scary because it's something we're not used to. So when we landed at the airport, you get on a bus and they drive you to the resort. And going down the streets, you could see a lot of the businesses with gates and bars on the windows and a lot of people hanging out. And so we're just not used to that. But then once we got to the resort, beautiful, beautiful resort. The weather was incredible, beautiful every day, and that was the first place I've ever gotten a tan where I didn't actually burn, but I got brown, bronzed instead. The only thing with the resort, it wasn't really an Americanized resort, so a lot of the food, it was okay, but it wasn't. You weren't there for the food. We'll just say that. So the weather was awesome. The activities were really, really good. The staff for the activities were awesome. They were always after Patrick to come and do things, and we'd go in the evening to look at some of the shows. So that was a really good trip. And my sister ended up. We went down. It was myself, Patrick, and my husband and my mother, Patrick's grandmother. And then the second week, my sister surprised us and ended up, we got I think, a phone call from the lobby, and it was my sister. And so she was like, yeah, come and see me in the lobby. So, anyhow, she ended up coming down for a week to surprise us. So that was quite fun.
Yeah, and I mean, when we were in Venezuela at the resort, we did go off the resort, either on an excursion. I think we went to like Iguana Island one time. And then we also, because like my mom said, the food wasn't quote unquote Americanized. So it wasn't like dishes that we may have been used to or accustomed to or kind of sat well with our stomachs at the time. But there was a mall not too far from the resort. So we sometimes would go off the resort to walk over to, and I think they had like what, a Subway or something.
Yeah, they had the subway. I think we took a taxi into the city because I was also looking for a post office.
Right.
And that was a little difficult because not a lot of people spoke English and they couldn't understand. So, yeah, we ended up going into the city, and that's where we had the subway, which is good because they have the ingredients on display, in that window there area, so you got to point to what you wanted. And yeah, the mall, I think it had a really good ice cream place, it had a donut place, but the mall was half occupied, half empty, because what had happened during our visit, well, not during our visit, but what had happened at that time, an investor, I guess, had put in a lot of investments into that area. and started all these new constructions, and then ended up and leaving them dry. And so the mall was half finished. But yeah, no, the people, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful people. I will say, because we had never really been to tropical areas like that, we did, towards the end of our trip, end up noticing a cockroach. And so I tried to explain it to the staff, but as I said, not very Americanized. So a lot of them just spoke Spanish. So I was trying to explain, bug, whatever. And so they were coming up with a translation of a raton. And I'm thinking, well, they probably think it's a rat. Anyhow, they said they would send someone with spray or something. Anyhow, ended up, I found out the term for cockroach is cucaracha. And so, yeah, now I know what the song means, the cucaracha.
Yes. And you have to keep in mind with the language barrier here, this trip is also pre iPhones, smartphones, tablets, or anything like that, or even really a computer like that you would intensely use to go on the internet or anything. So if you were traveling like that, you would either have to bring like the translation, like a translation book or guide or something, or at least know how to speak part of the language. So this was pre all that. So don't judge us for not knowing how to speak Spanish here. Also, for non Canadian listeners, Canada is known for teaching English and French, not Spanish. So, we don't really know Spanish unless you intentionally learn it yourself because it's not taught in our school systems here. But one final trip that we've gone together as a family was a lovely cruise. And what can you say about the cruise, Mom?
So I believe we've gone on 2 cruises with you. Oh,
What?
no, just one?
Only
Okay.
one with me.
So it was a cruise we always go with the cruise line.
Royal Caribbean.
That's right, Royal Caribbean. And so it was myself, Wayne, Patrick, and my mother again, my Patrick's grandmother, and another couple and their 2 sons. So we ended up going on this 7-day cruise. So we drove down to Florida. Excuse me. And we stayed there maybe 1 or 2 nights, and then we took the cruise for 7 days. And when we came back, I believe we started driving home right away. But anyhow, yes, the cruise was, it's started out in Fort Lauderdale, where you took the ship. And from there, you went to San Juan, Puerto Rico, which was nice. We did a carriage ride there. And then we ended up from there going to St. Martin, St. Thomas, and the Bahamas. So in St. Martin, I believe, is where we did some scuba diving. St. Thomas, or vice versa, is the area where we did mostly some shopping, and where you can buy really inexpensive alcohol. And then Bahamas, we went to visit
The Atlantis hotel.
Yeah, we did the Atlantis, and yeah, so that was a really nice trip as well. And since then, my husband and I have gone on several other cruises, so that's something I would highly recommend. But of course, not right now with the COVID.
Yeah, of course not. And again, not to humble brag, but to humble brag, I am also in our family the only one that has ever gone to Europe. And I went to Paris for 7 days with friends of the family, and 2 days in London, England. So that's kind of been our trips. Reminiscing has always been nice because we love to travel and stuff. But what would you say out of all the trips we've been on, which one would you either like to have a do over or like to just pick up and go back again?
Um, I would have to say probably the cruise again, because on a cruise, you have the option of either getting off the ship and visiting the ports and finding out about the culture and the customs, or you can just stay on the ship and enjoy it. The food is awesome. The entertainment is I mean, just out of this world. The service is extraordinary. I really, really enjoy it. And if I had to pick something else, again, I would have to say, yeah, Napa Valley and the San Francisco area. So, with all these travels, we haven't traveled in, I believe, over a year. So, with this COVID, it's really taken its toll because, like I said, we usually go to Florida at least every year. And so that's something I really miss. So I'm missing, the beach atmosphere.
Yeah. And and again, this isn't just a, oh, look how wonderful we are and look how spoiled I was as a child. This is more we were very fortunate to have the opportunity and capability to do that. And it was like our one trip a year we would save up for and really wouldn't do certain things for that. And dad would also work at nights as well sometimes just for some extra earnings.
Right. And then he also, way back in the beginning, also had shares in his company. We would cash in every year to take some of these trips. And again, like I said, along the way, we've purchased a timeshare, which is pretty convenient because, it's paid off and you get to travel and stay in certain areas. And so it's always nice to, yeah, reminisce. And that's what keeps us usually going for the rest of the year, is looking forward to a trip. Now, lately with traveling, I've been a little more wanting to stay closer to home. So basically, the last maybe 2 summers, we've rented, we'll say, a cottage instead, either on the Quebec side or the Ontario side for about a week. And so I don't mind doing that as well. I don't always have to, go away. But when I do go away, I prefer to drive if I can rather than fly.
Yeah. And for me, I'd say out of all the trips we've been on, I won't include Paris, but just the family trips. I'd say I'd probably want to go back right now to Napa Valley, just because I think with all the pandemic and everything, it's just, I want to go somewhere where it's a winery, spa like treatments, and just relax by the pool and not have a care in the world. I just want that right now. So give me wine and cheese and bread and a pool and spa service, and I'm good. So let's go there. But we're coming to an end of our podcast, Mom. Now, I usually like to ask a question of my guest on the spot. Now, this one's going to be travel related. So, not listing any of the places we've been to, what place in the world, if you could choose anywhere, no cost, no nothing, would you like to travel and visit?
Hawaii.
Hawaii?
Yeah.
And why?
I don't know. I just, whenever I see, movies or pictures or anything like that of Hawaii, it just looks very beautiful. Um, I'd love to be, on the beaches. I'd love to experience, luau's. The people seem very, very friendly. We do have a timeshare there. It's just, it takes a long time to get to Hawaii. And so I don't do well on long flights. So that's one of the reasons too why we haven't been yet. But yeah, at some point I'd love to visit Hawaii.
Okay. Now, for me, I have a couple of places, but I've narrowed it down to two for two very obvious different reasons. So, one would be Japan. And it's because I would love to just visit the hustle and bustle of Japan, their high tech and everything, but also their beautiful cherry blossoms and their gardens are. I've seen pictures, they look amazing. I'd love to go. But another place I'd really like to go is Fiji.
Mm,
Just, yeah, that clear
yeah.
blue water, and you could have those, like, you could have your room in one of those huts on the water. Like, whew, sign me up. Especially, like I said, with the last year, so far the year we've been having, I'm like, I'm ready.
Yeah, it'd be like sleeping on a waterbed or something.
Oh, remember water beds?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
No, Fiji would be a top place as well.
you know what? They need to bring water beds back, though. That would be nice.
Yeah,
The good old water bed. I remember we used to have one.
yeah.
Um,
But we had to get rid of it. Your dad and I kept drifting apart.
oh my gosh. Okay. Anyways, so I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast, this episode. Did you have fun, Mom?
I did actually.
Great. Well, maybe I'll have you back as a guest in the future. But hope everyone enjoyed themselves. Don't forget, you can always check out the podcast wherever podcasts are distributed. Spotify, Apple Podcast, Anchor. Can check it out on my YouTube channel. Things like that. I'm trying to come out with 2 podcast episodes a month. So bear with me with that. It is the month of February. We are in the middle of a pandemic, so doing the best I can here, people. But hope you guys are enjoying it. Stay safe. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for future podcasts, you can always send me an email at realtalkwithpatrick@gmail.com. Even if you just want to be a guest, I'm always looking for guests. So be sure to check that out. Or even thank you, Mother, or even topics and suggestions and stuff like that. So, all right, then. That does it for the podcast. I hope everyone has a great day, and we'll see you next time. Have a great day. Goodbye.
Bye.